Hi, this is Josh Bycer from GameWisdom.com. Hope you enjoyed this critical thought, a detailed discussion on game design, and be sure to subscribe and you can pitch future critical thought topics. Alright, everybody, for today's critical thought, we're going to be talking about the ever popular adage of show, don't tell, and how it relates to video games as well as adapting properties from one medium to another. Now, we did a live cast about this topic, I think it'd be a few months ago at this point, but one of the big challenges, especially when it comes to video games, is keeping the story going and keeping it flowing through the narrative. And we have certainly seen a lot of video games have struggled in this regard. There's that little scene I did a few while ago of me, talking back and forth like an NPC in a JRPG. And then there are games that will just hit you with a ton of exposition and dialogue and can just pretty much put you to sleep before the game even started. I got a press key for a game last week that I'm going to try and make a video about soon, that everything about the game's plot and narrative is relegated to a whole lot of text. Very similar to what they do in Dark Souls. However, the point about the Souls series is that a lot of the story and narrative is built into the environment itself, so that you can get an understanding of what's going on by walking around Yharnam in Bloodborne, or wherever the villages are in Dark Souls 3. But in this game, where I'm like walking around who I'm talking to is not really telling me what's going on with the story. Instead, they want me to read like 5 to 6 pages of text per entry. And keeping the story going, again, getting back to the adage of show, don't tell, this is a very major part about the visual medium. Now, when we look at any kind of written story, writing is about embellishing the details and such because we don't have the visual acuity to see what's going on. So we can't see if someone is being nervous or happy or angry or how they're slamming a door or anything like that. We have to go by what's on the page. One of the biggest downsides, or one of the biggest crutches that we see lesser developers, writers, and anyone in the film industry pull is when they try to translate things one to one from book to TV or comic book to movie or anything like that. And one of the biggest challenges, especially when it came to the DC and Marvel Cinematic Universe, has been trying to adapt the crazy comic book logic and making it fit within a narrative and a pacing of a movie or a TV show and so on. And you can see this especially from like the young adult genre when they get moved over from books to TV shows and so on, and in lesser movies when there's like these, it's almost like exposition dialogue, things that no two humans would ever say to each other. Something like, "Hi John, how is my favorite half brother who we just discovered after missing for 10 years is doing?" Or, "Mark, are you so upset because 10 years ago to this day your house burned down, you lost your favorite car, and now you feel reckless about life?" It's these kinds of discussions that it's meant to serve the audience, but it doesn't really exist within any kind of proper narrative. Now, bringing this back to the video game industry, especially when it comes to direction and acting. Now, we can easily have an entire critical thought or two talking about voice acting and the challenges that go with it. But when it comes to writing for video games, especially today with the advances in 3D technology, it's important to look at film and actually just visual medium as a whole when it comes to writing the dialogue and how characters react. Again, when we're dealing with a visual medium, you don't want people to say, "I feel very sad," or "You're hurting me." You want that to be conveyed into their face, or in the Soulsborne case, conveyed by the environment itself. I don't need a narrator tell me that the city has been wrecked and destroyed when I'm seeing the entire destruction at hand. And more or less, or getting further into talking about show not tell. It reminds you of a few weeks ago I did a podcast interview with Diavecchi Studios. They are the creators of The Infectious Madness of Dr. Decker, which should be going up on the channel or going up on this site, I think within a week or so. And when I spoke to them, they discussed about having an open casting call for obviously the various people playing the mysterious characters in the game. And they gave them directions like, show me angry, or show me sad. And the difference between a good and bad actor is how they respond to that question. There are people who, when they said, show me angry, they did something like this. I'm very angry. That would actually be the extent of maybe my acting abilities. But they really want someone to be like something along the lines of, what the hell are you saying to me? Get out of my face. Trying to convey the emotion through dialogue rather than just saying it. Instead, I think I just gave my audition role, so in the coming future, I'm sure you'll find me in the starring role of a CW drama after that brilliant piece of acting. But the point for today is whenever you're trying to tell a story, especially with a visual medium, you have to use the advantages of that medium with your story. Or it just comes off as being off-putting, or just like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. When we did the live cast regarding adapting video games to other mediums or mediums to video games, we talked about having to use the inherent strengths of said medium when you're trying to do the translating. One of the issues we talked about when moving video games to other mediums is that video games don't tell a set story. As in, you're not going to spend 8 hours watching a story or listening to dialogue. That story is broken up by the gameplay, be it solving a murder, fighting through a village, stuff like in Phoenix Wright, anything along those lines. And because of that, if you're trying to adapt a video game to a movie, or to a non-interactive medium, I should say, you have to accommodate for that. Well, we were just talking about a few minutes ago regarding adapting comic books, especially DC and Marvel, to the big screen. One of the biggest challenges they had to run with was the fact that they're no longer dealing with still panels. As anyone who's read a comic book knows, characters don't move around when you're reading a comic book. And a lot of that is about the imagination that goes in between the panels, and the reader basically drawing a mental map from A to B and so on. But when you're watching a movie or a TV show, you as a director, and of course the actors and the writers, have to convey everything that you want the person to see. You don't have the advantage of the person's imagination, but on the other hand, you don't have the disadvantages of having to tell a story using frozen images. And again, when it comes to show, don't tell, with video games in particular, there's always that balance, because again, there's obviously the gameplay factor. You have to tell the player how something works if you're expecting them to solve a puzzle, or use a unique power to get past an enemy or a boss. But we can easily segue this into talking about organic tutorials, tutorial design in general, and a lot more. So I think we'll wrap things up in the next minute. For those of you watching this, can you think of good examples of video games that have gone through the show, don't tell principle? And to make things interesting, you can't use the Soulsborne series because I already brought that up. And likewise, can you think of video games that told but did not show? And how awkward or weird it looked there. Let me know in the comments below, and otherwise, thank you so much for watching today's Critical Thought. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check back for daily discussions on game design here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. And if you have a suggestion for a topic that I can cover in an upcoming blog, or vlog I should say, let me know in the comments below. But otherwise, thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and come back around 10 Eastern for regular streaming. For a collection of my writings, as well as weekly podcasts on game development, be sure to check out game-wisdom.com. Follow me on Twitter at GWBycer for updates throughout the day. And to help support everything that I do, you can find me on Patreon under GW Bycer or Game Wisdom. Your donations can help to keep things running, and we hit some goals, it will mean more content for everyone to enjoy. So, thanks again for watching, and be sure to come back for daily discussions on game design on the Game Wisdom channel.